Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the entrance of the academic party and the Chancellor.
I declare that the 502nd Convocation of McMaster University for the conferring of degrees is now in session.
Please be seated. Good morning. My name is Dr. Peter Smith, Acting Provost and Vice President Academic of the University. This morning, I have the great pleasure of acting as your Master of Ceremonies and of welcoming you all to this convocation ceremony. Before we start our formal program, may I first ask everyone in the hall to switch off any electronic devices that may ring or beep during the ceremony. I would like to now call upon our Chancellor, Dr. Linton Wilson, to make his own welcoming remarks.
Very good morning to you all. President and Vice Chancellor, Provost, Dean Capone, our honorary graduand, members of the platform party, graduands, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to this 502nd convocation of McMaster University. To our graduands, congratulations on your successes, on reaching an important milestone, an exciting milestone in your lives. Many of you will begin careers, embarking on new journeys. Some of you will be continuing your education, training, or preparation for more advanced or specialized activities. The very best of luck to each and every one of you. To the parents, grandparents, family members, spouses, and friends here today, I invite you to take a bow as well. You can be proud of the roles you've played in the accomplishments being recognized in this convocation. To our faculty and staff, today marks tangible recognition of your efforts, particularly the successes of your students evident in this ceremony. Thank you and congratulations. This is a day of celebration. I wish you all an enjoyable morning. Thank you.
I would like now to introduce Dr. Patrick Dean, President and Vice Chancellor, who will be presenting our honorary degree recipient.
Mr. Chancellor, by the authority of the Senate of McMaster University, I have the honor to present Yves Bréchet. Dr. Yves Bréchet is a professor of materials science at the Technical University of Grenoble, INP, and a senior research professor at the Institut Universitaire de France. Bréchet's association with McMaster University began in the 1980s when he spent a postdoctoral year here working with Professors Embury and Purdy. Dr. Bréchet has been an adjunct professor with McMaster since 1995. Dr. Bréchet's research interests are diverse and his work highly influential. With a focus on modeling in material science, and more specifically on physical metallurgy with a strong emphasis on structural materials, his work brings together the areas of mechanics, physics, and chemistry. His interests go from microstructure evolutions in metallic alloys, including precipitation, phase transformation, dislocation structures, and stability, to relations between microstructures and mechanical properties. In these classical topics of physical metallurgy, he has made important contributions to the modeling of precipitation in aluminum alloys, on the morphological stability of precipitates in nickel-based superalloys, on austenite to ferrite transformation kinetics, on discontinuous precipitation and DIGM, and on multi-layer reactions. Dr. Bréchet has also contributed to the statistical analysis of plastic instabilities, to the theory of work hardening of metals with small grain sizes or with precipitates, on the development of constitutive equations for creep of industrial alloys, and on the nucleation and coupling of recrystallization, recovery, and precipitation. His work has even explored a number of aspects related to nuclear materials. He has contributed to the application of large-scale computer simulations to the collective behavior of dislocations, and he has been active in the modeling of complex problems such as properties of casting and the optimization of welding process. One of Dr. Bréchet's most compelling research contributions comes from his involvement in developing methods for rational materials and process selection, including the use of artificial intelligence techniques. This innovation has led to a new field of activity that couples modeling and material selection to provide guidelines for materials by design, a principle that has been applied to everything from acoustic absorbers to glass design. Finally, he has also been involved in what are known as architectured materials, such as foams and interlock materials, where geometry is an integral part of the material's design. A research advisor to organizations like Alcan, EDF, and Donera, Dr. Bréchet is also a member of the International Scientific Council of ArcelorMittal and the Scientific Council of Atomic Energy Committee in France. He serves or has served on a number of editorial boards for respected publications like Material Science and Engineering. He is a member of the Board of Governors of Acta Materialia. Dr. Brachet was named as a Chevalier de la Légion d'honneur in 2009. His many other awards and honors include the ASM Henry Marion Howe Medal, the Li Sun Research Award from the Chinese Academy of Sciences, the European Science Prize from the Korba Foundation, and the Gold Medal from the National Center for Scientific Research in France. He has also received honors in Australia, Japan, Germany, and the United States. Mr. Chancellor, it is a privilege to present Dr. Yves Brachet to you, a scientist, an engineer, and a teacher with diverse interests and achievements touching a wide range of disciplines within the material sciences. His work has been recognized with many of the highest awards of his profession. And today, I ask that you add to that list by conferring upon Dr. Brachet the degree Doctor of Science honoris causa.
Yves Brachet, by the authority of McMaster University Senate, I have the great pleasure to confer upon you the degree Doctor of Science honoris causa in McMaster University with all the rights and privileges pertaining to that degree. Félicitations.
Thank you very much.
Haven't signed the book. It's now my privilege and pleasure to call upon Dr. Brachet to deliver the convocation address. Dr. Brachet.
Dear President Dean, Chancellor Wilson, distinguished guests, dear colleagues, and dear graduates. It is for me an honor to be awarded this honorary degree from McMaster University. I've been collaborating with so many colleagues here. I've met so many generations of students in the past 25 years that I do feel at home at McMaster, and I consider this honor as an additional gift of friendship. Usually, honorary degrees, like membership in academies, come together with age, as a consolation, I suppose. This one is coming to me as one more pleasant event in the story of my long connection with McMaster, which has always been a continuous and lasting pleasure. Any privilege fairly comes with a duty. I realized that in addition to receiving the degree, I should give a convocation address. That's new to me. You Canadians should be well aware that asking for a speech from a French visitor might be sometimes risky. You have also to be aware that convocation address is not in the French tradition. We often send diploma via the mail, which is very impersonal and even rather dangerous knowing the frequency of mail strikes in France. In addition, our standard lectures tend to last as long as Fidel Castro's speeches. Just to tell you how brave and bold are your professors to ask me for a convocation address. But it is too late for them to stop me now. I like, however, the idea of graduation day being at the same time a ceremony and a fest, a time of pride and a time of joy, and I'll try to do my best to contribute to both. My first connection with McMaster was 25 years ago. Most of you graduates were not even born. It was before global warming and before the wines of the Niagara region became better and benefited from it. I came for a postdoctoral year and was lucky enough to work with Gary Purdy, Dave Embury, and Jacques Caldi under a very strict commitment. Work on whatever you like, provided it is interesting. It sounds like a miracle to have been given this opportunity, and I'm still full of gratitude for the ones who have offered it to me. Maybe it is one good reason for a convocation address, to remind that freedom is essential to scientific research, and that generosity is the firmest basis for a lasting friendship. From this time, a long-lasting collaboration started, with many papers written, many PhD defense, many joint projects, many students between Grenoble and McMaster. And sure enough, I still have from this time a non-published paper with Dave Embury on recrystallization of dual-phase materials. I suspect never finishing this paper was a good reason to move on with new ideas and new topics. Always keep a non-published work to remind you that the published one, sooner or later, will be forgotten as well. I suspect a respectable convocation address should contain a few wise sentences. So here is the first one. Never forget that science has been going on without us for centuries and will go on well after we have gone. The people we work with are more important than the topics we work on. One of the deepest reasons to do science is to enjoy together and to share this pleasure with colleagues and students. I'm addressing students in science, for whom I may appear as an engineer. I could have as well addressed students in engineering, for whom I could be a scientist. I've never been able to choose. I love this ambiguity. I've always disliked frontiers and labels, and I consider the ones in the intellectual activities of human beings among the most perverse. Science and engineering are working hand in hand. Science wants to understand for the sake of understanding nature. Engineering wants to understand for the sake of mastering nature. There is no reason to keep them apart. There is no reason to choose between them or to rank them. It is not sufficient to be useless to be fundamental, and it is not necessary to be useful to be worth of interest. Niels Bohr, Louis Pasteur, and Thomas Edison are three emblematic examples of pure science, applied science, and engineering. Who would dare to rank them, and what for? The poet Paul Valéry used to say, "What is simple is wrong, what is complicated is useless." This narrow path between an accurate description of complexity and the ability to explain just enough is a common goal between science and engineering. This is the second message I would like to leave with you. You have a degree. You will soon be active outside in the real world. Science and engineering will be for you a job, a competence, a status. Never forget, it is also a form of culture. Biologist Jean Rostand wrote once, "A truth which pleases you should be proven twice." This willingness to understand at the root of science and engineering is true for all men of culture. Humanities, science, and engineering are not to be separated in a man of culture. Of course, you can't be expert in everything, but you will be creative if you are curious of everything. This is the second challenge: reconcile science, engineering, and culture. But I'm aware I'm also addressing to citizens. The relation between science and society has profoundly evolved in the last century. The great success of science and engineering in the 19th century gave them, in the public, a very positive image at first. This positive image led to a misconception, where the scientist would have specific rights to rule the world. This was the scientist's ideology. This is a long-lasting mistake rooting into the myth of the philosopher king in Plato. This ideology has not survived the terrible 20th century. The various disasters our parents and grandparents have lived through have taught us that civilizations are mortal. Unfortunately, we have also discovered that the use of science may also be contorted, and not always a smooth, enlightened path toward progress and well-being of humankind. From overconfidence, our fellow citizens have now come to another extreme, equally dangerous, over-suspicion. All the benefit we got from science is nowadays taken for granted, and only the potential dangers are emphasized. Scientific experts are often suspected to be manipulated or biased. Being competent in a field tends to disqualify expertise. This disqualification of scientific expertise is a threat for democracy. This is for you a new challenge, understanding that your knowledge of science in a civilization in which science and engineering play an increasing role doesn't give you additional rights. It gives you new duties. The duty of informing your fellow citizen honestly, without hiding the dangers, neither amplifying irrational fears. It is a duty of your generation to bring together the legitimacy of democracy and the legitimacy of rational thinking. This is certainly one of the most challenging goals: reconcile citizens, engineers, and scientists. I have now to come to an end of this address. I don't mind people looking at their watches when I speak, but I worry when they start shaking it. When I told my father I would stay in the academia, he asked me with a smile, "When will you start working?" Now you are graduating. Consider as a privilege to be among the people for whom working, having fun, and understanding are compatible. This privilege comes with duties, duties toward the scholarship you have acquired, duties toward your fellow citizens. I will leave you with Rabelais and his inimitable French, which, by the way, looks very much like Quebec French. Sapience n'entre point en tête malivole, et science sans conscience n'est que ruine de l'âme, which reads, wisdom does not enter into a malevolent mind, and science without conscience is nothing but ruin of the soul. Congratulations, and thank you to everybody.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Docteur Bréchet. I'm glad you took two risks this morning. First, the risk of speaking to Convocation, a first. And secondly, the risk of trying to be briefer than Fidel Castro. I'm most grateful for that. Your comments about the place of science in our world and our culture are very much on the minds of all of us these days. And thank you for your inspirational and wise remarks. Merci beaucoup.
Dr. Patrick Dean will now come forward to present the graduands to our Chancellor for admission to their degrees.
Will the graduands please stand? Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of McMaster University Senate, I present to you these candidates in order that you may confer the appropriate degrees upon them, and I bear witness that they are worthy and suitable.
Graduands, by my authority and that of the McMaster University Senate, I have the great pleasure to admit you to your individual degrees and diplomas in McMaster University, with all of the rights and privileges pertaining to those degrees and diplomas. My sincere congratulations to you all.
Please be seated. Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of McMaster University Senate, may I also request that you confer the appropriate degrees in absentia upon all those candidates who have successfully completed the required course of study, but who are not present.
I declare all these degrees and diplomas conferred in absentia.
Graduates, I now ask each of you to join me on the stage so that the Chancellor and I may welcome you into the McMaster community of scholars.
Ladies and gentlemen, it would be appreciated if during the presentation of the graduands, you would hold your applause to the end of each degree category. Thank you. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Doctor of Philosophy: Joel Stephen Klink, Guillermo Pablo Murphy, Mary Priere Shippers, Dan Kenneth Thompson, Jennifer Assanen Dean, Bin Chen, Joanne Nicole Hodder, and Tyler Clough. Mr. Chancellor, May I present to you the following graduates of the degree Master of Science. Catherine Dieleman. Amanda Elizabeth Fraz. Siam Michael Grobler. Sartak Matravadia. Kamber Sayed. And Margaret Sylvia Tellis.
Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Science Honours. Mobalaji Odialo. Rita Agaibi. Mohammed Mustafa Ahmadzai. Zahra Akbar. Ronnie Mark Coleman Ali. Khan Derek Alkin. Ashley Hamilton Altman. Lucy Ambroshkevich. Sohaib Amyad. Matthew Andaloro. Eve Christine Anderson. Sylvia Andrzejewski. Jan Catherine Ang. Atta ul Haq Ansari. Isabel Ardiente. Erica Arsenault. Paul Zafarios Athanasopoulos. Abhishek Bala. Justin Larry Balsaw. Christina Begyan. Goshan Kaur Bering. Stephanie Beverly. Jayant Bandari. Christopher Rudi Bieberhofer. Nicholas Leandro Blenich. Alfonso Guido Bozelli. Mikhail Braga. Lindsay Elizabeth Burnett. Christopher Michael Cabral. Caitlin Ellen Campbell. Caitlin Capone. Adrian Carmichael. Amanda Catanaro. Michelle Marguerite Caudle. Yujuan Chai. Justine Chan. Tim Chan. Felicia Chang. Grace Chang. Emily Marie Charbonneau. Dishna Chowdhury. Zara Kaleem Chowdhury. Umar Chowdhury. Sharon Yui Ling Cheung. Vivian Hei-Wan Cheung. Philip Ho Bun Choi. Ye Eun Choi. Nicole Holovinsky. Julia Shrapka. Carolyn Siet Ling Chung. Nicole Ya Huye Chung. Samantha Lauren Clay. Scott Coates Reed. Tara Gale Colarusso. Nicole Lauren Cook. Catherine Marie Crevier. Natasha Antonetta Dalimonte. Liana Sharida D'Andrea. Sarah Vivian D'Ortenzio. Joanne De Souza. Jennifer Dang. Leela Catherine Danis. Lorna De Leon. Brett Theodore DeHay Turner. Angela Filomena Delicio. Joshua Ben De Los Santos. Olivia Grace Dennis. Anthony Michael Di Petro. George DiCenzo. Gregory Thomas Dimmers. Divya Divakaran. Brittany Nicole Doody. Jennifer Doucette. Charles Francis Doucette. Ankita Dubey. Alisa Dunbar. Stephanie Teresa Dunn. Matthew Eng. Kalen Jeffrey Etienne. Caitlin Marie Falkauskas. Jennifer Michalina Fazari. Chantel Ann Ferguson. Janina Foronda. Danielle Cage Franciscus. Stephanie Elizabeth Fraser. William Theodore Fiachuk. Ka Yi Yat Jason Fung. Kimmy Ching Ki Fung. Melanie Furtado. Melissa Ann Galina. Evan Howard Genge. Arian Gassemian. Matthew Peter Gibbs. Michelle Ann Gold. Aaron Michael Goldstein. Shilia Gorges. Alifia Goriawala. Brandon Gregory. Navdeep Grewal. Yubin Ha. Jeremy David Han. Christine Elizabeth Harpel. Brittany Ann Hartle. Ali Hashemi. Amy Joan Hector. Parisa Hedayat Mofidi. Brandon Daniel Henixbo. Shaina Tarin Veritsa Henry. Sarah Kristen Higgins. Jacqueline Mary Hill. Elizabeth Hooper. Anna Hrinko. James Yi Hu. Tracy Hung. Naiyun Huang. Svetlana Yiachich. Moin Imran. Anam Irshad. Nikola J. Ivetich. Raquel Yandok. Catherine Ann Yongsma. Arani Thanya Kandipan. Sanjna Kapoor. Adam Bensky Kendall. Hai Yung Keum. Hassan Ahmed Khan. Sajid Khan. Hyun Hye Kim. Jiyoon Kim. Moonyong Kim. Soo-jung Kim. Lisa Klotz. Brianna Lee Knowlton. Susie Coe. Beverly Crisco. Nayasta Adimana Kuzdaya. Iris Pugh Yan Kwok. Victoria Ling Hai Kwok. Adrienne Lam. Jennifer Lam. Sharon Lam. Karen Jennifer Lam. Dorothy Ann Lipinski. Patricia Lasotska. Catherine Min Yi Lau. Harriet Lau. Joyce Lau. Rosalind Lau. Matthew Joshua Lee. So Young Lee. Su Yeon Lee. Daniel John Lease. Jacqueline Mariana Morello Leonard. Angela Pui Kwe Leung. Amanda Wan Yi Lee. Mitchell Lee Cheong Man. Chun Mei Lee. Daniel W. Lee. Linda Joyce Lee. Vanessa Van Ling. Sanduni Umayanga Lianaga. Gayani Dinushika Lokuliana Waduge. Juliana Lopez Aguduleo. Cheryl Cheuk Liang Louis. Vanessa Blair Lundsgaard Nielsen. Sarah Margaret Lush. Fuong Ma. Megan Elizabeth Madge. Lukme Subhashini Mahendira. Sinthura Mahendran. Sharmeen Mahood. Yasin Saeed Manan. Abjit Manai. Ivana Machinchinova. Chantel Elizabeth Corrine Markle. Corey A.J.R. McCurry. Mandy Rebecca Rose McDougall. Tanya Mehta. David Federico Mele. Vlad Melnich. Stephanie Rose Merck. Julie Allison Mercereau. Andrew David Meyer. Alexandra Nicole Milanetti. Kelsey Ann Milmeen. Rebecca Mock. Satya Sivaram Mulapudi. Kenneth Mwawasi. Sharon Denisa Nadaraja. Tamiza Nanji. Neetu Nat. Nikki Joanne Bulanadi Natividad. Stephen Neely. Alan Yuk Lon Ng. Henry Nguyen. Justine Nota. Vivian Abena Ntiri. Catherine O'Kell. Onyeka Edara Olesemea Lea. Titilope Odunaya Onabanjo. Elizabeth Juliana Osterlund. Jasmine Pada. Cara Wells Page. Gurpret Kaur Panesa. Rajpit Kaur Panesar. Kelly Park. Michelle Paul Pasik. Danisha Patel. Dhruv Patel. Priya Patel. Shreyasi Patel. Yogita Patel. Michael Edward Percival. Amanda Claire Pereira. Carolyn Anderson Pichinin. Olivia Magdalena Podolak. Tyler James Pollock. Jeffrey Poon. Jocelyn Powell. Sarah Jacqueline Pointer. Anupa Jyoti Prashad. Nirvana Tanuja Prashad. Jennifer Prempe. Aaron Prodeus. Alina Prospapescu. Christina Pugliesi. Katarzyna Di Pica. Colleen Kwok. Renee Quevedo. Zane Qureshi. Anusha Rahman. Emma Ramsey. Marlette Joy Ravello. Rachel Kerry Lowe Roby. Tamara Michelle Rosner. Julian John Rubino. Anthony James Sanseverino. Joy Santiago. Victoria Satarova. Brianna Schneider. Megan Elizabeth Schnur. Amanda Ann Schröder. Paula Schuck. Kirsten Nina Seibel. Alexander Joseph Sverazza. Kairavi Shah. Pankil Shah. Mark Shaw. Chi Shen. Tana Lee Shepherd. Samantha Rose Shipley. Inderpreet Sidhu. Thuvaraka Sinadurai. Paul Sirek. Kenneth Yao Kin Siu. Matthew C.U. Vanaja Thipa Sivakumar. Michael Swigotsky. Daniel Sochko. Shreya Solanki. Cassandra Eleni Spiridis. Brittany Alicia Staboon. Rachel Amanda Stoppard. Richa Sood. Sangeeta Sutradhar. Valentina Suvaminathan. Lina Taji. Erin Tan. Amanda Elisha Tang. Daniela Tantalo. Dallas Taylor. Daniel Eric Temple. Alicia Catherine Tanuta. Kate Ann Nicole Thomas. Jordan Osborne Thompson. Titus Konstantin Timortin. Dominika Irena Tomczyk. Grace Tong. Julian Tong. Jessica Tsalikis. Jasmine Turner. Isvaria Venu. Amanda Very. Julia Eleanor Fetter. Jennifer Camille Vienne. Christina Laura Catherine Wachholz. Jessica Lynn Wallace. Erin Marie Walters. Yiyue Yolanda Wang. Bessie Watt. Florence Wilson. Deanna Wong. Queenie Wong. Shirley Yiting Wong. Scott Hamin. Michael Ming Yan. James Yang. Sitao Ye. Gillian Emily Yeaman. Mei Yo. Cynthia Yeung. Yi Yin. Jennifer Yip. Shahinaz Youssef. Monique Yu. Tennyson Yu. Samantha Roxanne Ewell. Michael Zabwotsky. Tahmid Zaman. Carolyn Zanketa. Daniel Zangari. Yubin Zhao. Bira Azaz Zuberi. I'm fine. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Science Kinesiology Honours. Alicia Adepojoyo. Bianca Jessica Agnoletto. Jason Au. Esther Aye. Aaron Zachary Bailey. Karen Jean Ballinger. Daniel Baronas. Khan Bey. Alexandra Catherine Blair. Michael Scott Bradford. Amy Kim Bro. Oriana Catanazzi. Scott Thomas Catherine. Crystal Chan. Yosun Sylvia Choi. Felicia Chow. Vincent Wing Yin Chow. Melanie Christina Clark. David Michael Cocriella. Krista Cole. Jacqueline Crossley. Megan Alexandra Kunchinch. Melissa Lynn Duxham. Caitlin Alicia Elmsley. Kyle Michael Etwaru. Zachary Charles Evans. Christine Barbara Marie Franich. Sarah Lisa Giovanetti. Eric Stephen Habib. Andrew David Hall. Caitlin Alexandra Heath. Katie Heung. Andrea Elizabeth Hickling. Olivia Ho. Jamie Helen Holland. Stephanie Hood. Stephanie Claire Elizabeth Hosford. Leah Marina Huber. Catherine Elizabeth Hudgins. Sandra Ibrahim. Jessica Leanne Jones. Enike Kadar. Sharma Kassam. Trinette Cowns. Charlotte Allison Kendall. Megan Kathleen Keslick. Catherine Marie Kohler. Stephanie Maria Kutsemba. Christine Ladniak. Rachel Francine Lamb. Ashley Lamb. Kerry Lok Man Lau. James David Lavelle. Paul Michael Luty. Iwan Liu. Monique Elizabeth Lison. Stephanie Rose Loy Son. Alison Claire Ludsky. Lana Majid. Tolani Omolabaki Mankanjuola. Erin Marie Mackinch. Christina Malakowski. Mohammed Malik. Diana Markovic. Rochelle Amanda Marshall. Laura Marchuk. Richard Andrew Mastroluisi. James Robert Maurini. Stephen Edward May. Jared Ian Kenneth Maynard. Taylor Lillian McCabe. Emma K. McCormack. Lauren Grace McKenzie. Angelica Macquarie. Stacey Mello. Jacqueline Miller. Andrew Morris. Kimberly Maria Ngai. Monica Nyishli. John Eric Odina. Sarah Oikawa. Kyla Lindsay Onsi. Christine Palisok. Brendan Park. Juhi Patel. Daniel Joseph Potsernik. Jay Routinch. Sean Peter Riley. James Robert Riggs. Heather Lee Rostobutko. Ellie Stephen Rosenfeld. Aviva Sampson. Tristan Paul C. Sandhu. Spencer Michael Savoy. Jennifer Annalise Shearer. Leanne Elizabeth Shieldroth. Brittany Nicole Scott. Scott Anthony Shallow. Alison Michelle Shaver. Chantal Sinclair. Tyler Richard Small. Daniel Sobchak. Mariam Somo. David Paul Song. Alexandra K. Soon. Thomas Donald Souls. Matthew Jordan Stork. Marcus Robert William Sullivan. Patrick Schiller. Crystal Tandon. Sarah Lynn Tenbruggen-Kate. Preston Thompson. Lauren Catherine Tristani. Jessica Tucker. Remy Valjavivetil. Morgan Van Mielo. Rachel Gabrielle Walker. Charlotte Barbara Eileen Warren. Kylie Marie Wasser. Natasha Alexandra Watkinson. Ryan Weston Wells. Kelly Kathleen Wilson. Megan Wilson. Chelsea Wingfield. Melissa Julianne Justine Wu. Jamie Lee Yin. Jessica Yu. Daniel Lawrence Zervos. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Science. Desiree Kimberly Ann Almeida. Joshua William Bigioni. Kerstina Kabading. Alex Cornelius de Koning. Danielle Halassa. Gazia Khan. Chalani Kumarasamy. Timothy Lau. Jade Liebersbock. Anthony Nastorzio. Kinza Shahid. Ishao Sharma. Samantha Sigurdsson. Patrick Swist. Jensen Wong. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Science Kinesiology. Holly Margaret Anstedt. Matthew Anthony Beredocco. Alicia Friano. Shane George Petrusma.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to introduce you to Ms. Erika Arsenault, a graduate of the Bachelor of Science Honors Program, who will be delivering the valedictory address.
To the families, friends, staff, and faculty present here today, hello. And thank you for being here to celebrate the 2012 Science Faculty Convocation. To my peers, congratulations. I struggled a lot in trying to think of something to say today. I wanted to say something applicable to everyone, something you could all relate to. In attempts to do so, I decidedly asked myself, how would a science student go about solving this problem? To figure this out, I did the first thing every university student does that all our professors tell us not to. I used Wikipedia. According to what I found and what I've learned over the past 5 years, I should use the scientific method, which consists of 4 simple steps. Step number 1, try to make sense of the problem at hand by looking at your own experience. Looking at my own experience, I had no idea what to say. So I moved to step 2. Try to solve the problem based on past solutions of other people. Looking at articles, newspapers, and of course YouTube videos, I noticed a common theme. All valedictorian speeches started with congratulations, Second, an explanation on how we're at the cusp of a new beginning and it's time to mark our place in the world. And finally, ending with an inspirational quote. Moving to step number 3, I was to assume that my answers to step 1 and 2 were right and consider the possible outcomes. Using this logic, I could 1, tell you, based on my own experiences, I have no idea what to say and have you all bored and probably confused. Or 2, based on other solutions, give you a generic speech filled with cliches and quotes from some really smart people. Reluctantly, I decided to continue with the scientific model and I looked to step 4. Step 4 is the final test, or experiment. Try solving the problem with the answers you get from step 1 and 2 and receive your probable outcome. However, I hypothesized that if I followed the previous steps for completing a valedictory speech, I would not please you, or frankly, myself. Instead, I decided to do what McMaster has taught us to do best. Think outside the box, be creative, innovative, and attempt to learn something new. To do this, I propose to you a new experiment. Instead of telling you all the great things you're going to go on and accomplish from here, which I undoubtedly believe to be true, I want to attempt to prove that you've accomplished so much already. So to do this, I'm going to list the top 10 reasons why I think you should feel accomplished. Bear with me. Number 1, somehow we all managed, even in our first year, to register for courses on Mugsy, despite the maximum number of students always being exceeded. Number 2, at one point or another, we all managed to make at least one friend, in some cases, a best friend. Number 3, here at Mac, we've all finished at least one group project. Number 4, when you asked your first question in class, fearing it was the dumbest thing you've ever said, meanwhile 20 other people were thinking the exact same thing. Number 5, making it from one end of the student center to the other in the 10 minutes between class. You may have had to squeeze through couples holding hands, hit about 5 people with your backpack, and almost bang into a pole, but you got there eventually. Number 6, when you finally succeeded in getting your goggles to stop fogging up in the lab for the first time. For me, this was a big one. With a lazy eye, glasses, and goggles, I was the definition of a nerd. And fog, that was just icing on the cake. Number 7, pulling an all-nighter. Though this may not be true for all of you, there was definitely at least one really late night for an assignment you left a little too last minute. Number 8, an exam in the Iverwin gym. We've all felt that intense fear and anxiety of being hurtled from the hallway to the exam room like cattle, and we don't have to do it again. Number 9, struggling through thesis or lab course experiments that never seem to work until we get some sort of result. And finally, number 10, graduation. Years of a degree. Finished. Done. Complete. Take a second to think about what that means. We made it. All those times we struggled to get through 3 midterms in 1 week are over. You can now go to the Phoenix for a celebratory drink and not have to leave early to study for your next exam. Today, we are receiving a piece of paper that in the past, valedictorians would suggest mark our entrance into the real world. I want to say that this piece of paper marks all the accomplishments we've made in our years at McMaster. From this point forward, when you're thinking of what you want to do when you grow up, or how you're going to make your mark in the world, look at this piece of paper and know how far you've come already. Understand that you've overcome a mountain that some never get to climb. Now, you may think the accomplishments that I've chosen to list are small, but in the words of Michael Faraday, the small often contains the great. And now, from this point forward, I think I will leave it to you to decide if my experiment has worked, whether you think my proof is sufficient. But if you don't believe me, please remember this one thing. You are all McMaster graduates, and that is one heck of an accomplishment. Thank you.
May I call upon the Dean of Science, Dr. John Capone, who will present the Jensen Medal.
It is with great pleasure that I announce the winner of the Jensen Medal for Excellence in Biology and Pharmacology to Matthew Lee.
Congratulations, Matthew. It's a great accomplishment. Good luck to you. I think that's enough.
May I introduce to you Dennis Suda, a representative of the McMaster Alumni Association. Dennis will now deliver the Alumni Association address.
Chancellor Wilson, Vice Chancellor Dean, distinguished guests on the platform, ladies and gentlemen, fellow alumni, members of the class of 2012. I have good news. I shall be brief. As a past president of the McMaster Alumni Association and current alumni member of Senate, I am honored this morning to represent our association president and extend to you a warm welcome to membership. In 8 other convocations this week, the members of the platform group will hear not only of our 125-year history and the changes that a quarter of a century and a century bring, they will hear about the importance of each of you to McMaster and the fact that from this day forward, you and we are connected. Your every success reflecting both on you and on our university, truly one of the world's greatest. This morning, however, it's going to be a little different. I'd like to talk about how you and your alumni association have been entwined since your first day on campus, whether you knew it or not. We'll talk about the future in a few minutes, but I want to talk about what we did for you before we talk about what we're going to do for you lately. If you happen to be in the Donaldson Center, Marketplace in the McMaster Student Center, you may drift to the northeast corner, or you may get shoved to the northeast corner in a crowd, and see a donor's plaque. At the very top, $10 million plus, it's you, the students, that contributed. But you don't go down very far and you see that $500,000 came from your alumni association. Likewise, over in the Braley Center, another $500,000. How did that money get to the Alumni Association and get to benefit you and future students? Well, surprise, it's not donations. The Alumni Association offers to its members a variety of programs and services. And each time one of these programs or services is used, a smidgen, that's halfway between iota and a jot, a smidgen flows back to the association. And over time, with thousands of alumni using services, those smidgens add up, apparently to more than $1 million, and those dollars are continuing to build, and they will again be present in helping future students, your successors, in their programs. So, what's ahead? That's what we've done in the past. You're going to receive a booklet today, if you haven't already, that outlines those things that the Alumni Association offers to you and does for you. I encourage you to take a look. In particular, there's the MAC 10 program, which is new, which focuses on services to those roughly 1/3 of graduates who have come out in the last decade. The good news for you is you're in. I'm sorry about the class of 2002. We have geographic and area of study branches of the association that gather and meet to exchange ideas and news. I encourage you to become involved. Please keep your contact information up to date. I know if you're slightly questioning, and after all you are science graduates, you may wonder, is this just a ploy to sick the fundraisers on you? And I want to tell you at our university, that's not the case. You may connect once a year with a student in our call center, but that's just about it, unless you're really, really, really successful. I'm going to conclude as the original address that I was given to read to you today does, and say, today we celebrate your success as students and toast the promise of your bright futures as alumni. Your fellow alumni are proud of you already. We offer you our most sincere congratulations and a warm welcome to the McMaster alumni family, which has been 125 years in the making. Thank you.
May I invite Dr. Dean back to the podium to deliver his President's address.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chancellor, honored guests, colleagues, graduates, ladies and gentlemen. It's always a great pleasure to be able to speak on such a celebratory occasion and to acclaim the achievements of our students and to anticipate what they will achieve in the future. I greatly enjoyed Dr. Brechet's talk. As a scholar from the humanities, I was struck by the quotes he had in his talk from the poet Paul Valéry and Rabelais. And since that's my excuse, I'm going to begin with a quote myself. We can play a sort of game of identify the quote here. Here's the quote: "Bliss was it in that dawn to be alive." Now, this was the title of an album released by the ambient trip-hop duo Arms and Sleepers in 2006. It's about the same time most of you were just beginning to contemplate which university you would choose, which program of study might suit you, and what career option might best satisfy your talents, your temperament, and your inclinations. Now, today, I would expect that at least some of you, and certainly a good number of your parents and supporters, will be looking back at that time of choice and marveling at the distance you have traveled since then. Now, as you sat there, weighing up one university prospectus against the other, good sense against the pressure of your peers, fear of the unknown against the desire for adventure, I'm not sure you would have said at that point that you were in a state of bliss. Such discussions with my own children were anything but blissful, as I recall. They were somewhat tense and ended not infrequently in books being slammed down and the question being fired at me, "Yes, Dad, but whose life is it anyway?" I might point out at this point that both of my children, the offspring of 2 English literature professors, have become scientists. But to be poised at the opening of a new phase in your life, to have at least choices about how that phase will be constituted, to be able to dream of your future without thinking you will be proven naive for thinking that you have one, this is an experience of privilege. And despite all the superficial anguish of choice, I know you will today recall the pregnant quality, the powerful promise of that moment as you chose your university. Bliss was it in that dawn to be alive. Now, those of you who have even a passing acquaintance with literature and whose tastes don't incline to ambient trip-hop music will by now be desperate to point out to me that the actual source for the quotation with which I began is the English romantic poet William Wordsworth. In the 10th book of whose long poem, The Prelude, the poet remembers a moment of great excitement, not unlike the one I was asking you to reflect on. The excitement he felt in France, arriving there in 1790, 1 year after the storming of the Bastille and the start of the French Revolution. The lines from the poem are very famous, and I'll read them to you. "O pleasant exercise of hope and joy! For great were the auxiliaries which then stood upon our side, we who were strong in love. Bliss was it in that dawn to be alive, but to be young was very heaven." Now, I've chosen this as the text for my remarks today, certainly because you're on the whole young, and you're gathered here today in a differently pleasant exercise of hope and joy, that is to say, this ceremony of graduation. But there is a good deal more to the parallel than this. Wordsworth's lines evoke a powerful sense of continuity, of community. Our side, he says, is strong in love. So there's that sense of community confronting or even instigating a far-reaching and radical human transformation. What invigorates one about this is the prospect of doing something great and, moreover, doing it in partnership with others. Indeed, that sense of the importance of community bears not only on the process by which change will come, that you must do things in concert with others, but also on the goal towards which revolutionaries aspire. And the goal is a new human dispensation, a society which is not just an agglomeration of individuals, but an organism, as the poet says, strong in love. Now, it may be true that in every age the young feel the same need for a fundamental reconsideration and reconfiguration of the human order. But there are compelling reasons to regard the present as an age of revolution, every bit as critical as that which began the American Revolution in the last quarter of the 18th century, which included the French Revolution and continued on for approximately 75 years. You'll be familiar with the term quiet revolution, which has particular application to Canadian politics. It's a term usually applied to the transformation of Quebec in the 1960s. But that term, quiet revolution, is obviously relevant to the kind of dramatic and far-reaching shift in economic and social relationships that is presently underway on the world stage. I was recently in Brazil as part of the Governor General's educational mission to that country. And in one of our many meetings with Brazilian government and university officials, I was struck powerfully by the curious mixture of assurance and abjection, strength and weakness that defined our Canadian position. We were assured, that is to say, we felt strong in our assumption that we had advantages that our Brazilian colleagues might want, a mature and world-class university system, for example. But we were abject, deferential, weak, in our awareness that this advantage is unlikely to continue for much longer, that very shortly the tables will be turned, and institutions and countries like our own will depend for their survival on their ability to adapt to a new order, a new world order in which they are not dominant. Now, about a month earlier, I was present when a similar scene played itself out in England, where I was attending the British Council's annual conference on global higher education. At the opening event, a member of the British cabinet, apparently mistaking the audience for a group of British academics, addressed the approximately 1,400 delegates who had in fact come to London from 120 countries around the world. And oddly oblivious to the reality that he was addressing representatives from the very market that he wished to exploit, he spoke at some length about the need to cultivate and sell abroad the British brand in higher education, as he called it. Now, the ironies attending his talk were profound, and I imagine were not lost at all on many delegates from Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, the BRICS countries, as we've come to know them. Such nations in the so-called developing world, having shaken off political subservience and begun to realize their economic potential, are now being invited back into relationship with their previous masters in a new role as customers increasingly vital to the economies of those formerly dominant states. Assurance and abjection again, strength and weakness in that British cabinet minister as in our delegation in Brazil. These are the symptoms of a quiet revolution that is underway across the globe, realigning power and wealth, problematizing relationships that have seemed settled since the 18th and 19th centuries, challenging the hegemony of received ideas, of what one might call normative Europeanness, and making it certain that the new world coming will not be predictable on the basis of the old. Now, what fuels my own sense of bliss at this moment is the feeling developed over the last few decades working with students in a number of Canadian universities, but particularly strong since my coming to McMaster, that many of you are open to an active engagement with the globe, not only as it is right now, but also as it is in the process of becoming. Indeed, many of you I know have sought an active role in addressing environmental degradation, suffering, health issues, violence, inhumanity across the world. And we should all be very proud of this, of the way in which what one might call a without borders sensibility has taken hold in your generation and given life to formal initiatives aimed at serving the world and its needs in difficult times. In talking about the relationship between science and democracy, Dr. Brechet opened upon the same area. The most influential model of these formal initiatives aimed at serving the world, Doctors Without Borders, has a very strong McMaster connection, as many of you know. Dr. James Orbinski, who was president of Doctors Without Borders when the organization received the Nobel Prize in 1999, had been a medical student at this university. Dr. Orbinski is also connected with another organization that's very strong at McMaster, and this is Engineers Without Borders. As an institution, we have a long and distinguished history of high-quality engagement with global problems. As many of you know, our Faculty of Social Science hosts the McMaster Institute on Globalization and the Human Condition, established in 1998 to study globalizing processes and the way in which these bear upon our lives, our communities, and most powerfully, when looked at from the point of view of the sciences, our environment. In the Faculty of Humanities, we have a combined honors program and a minor in peace studies, a program which originated in the period of the Cold War. And you will know better than I about the problem-solving ethos of the integrated science program, the innovative approach to human health in biochemistry and biomedical sciences, and the many outreach programs that characterize the Faculty of Science. Arching over these and many other globally oriented activities at McMaster is our institutional membership in United Nations Academic Impact, which commits us to the practice of higher education and research in support of the global good. You may not know that several years ago we dedicated ourselves through education to the realization of the Millennium Goals of the United Nations. Today, all the talk is of internationalizing higher education, and it would be gratifying if by that word was meant the kind of global education that I've just been describing. The internationalization of higher education is one of the stated aims of our provincial government, our federal government, and of governments as well as educational institutions around the world. I'm fond of noting that in a recent survey conducted by the International Association of Universities, 87% of institutions reported that they include internationalization in their mission statement or their strategic plan. Depending on where you're situated on the globe, there are varying degrees of consensus on the issue. From what I told you about the Governor General's mission to Brazil, which was preceded several months earlier by a similar mission led by the Prime Minister, it's clear that the Canadian consensus on this matter is very strong. Our future lies in our international relationships, our international commerce, presumably in the knowledge-based industries of which higher education is one. But it's interesting to note that there's far less commitment to the idea of internationalization, in higher education at least, in countries of the Middle East, Latin America, and the Caribbean, for example. And my stories about Brazil and the British Conference provide a clue as to why this is the case. The fact is simply that for countries like our own, and even more so for Britain and the European nations, successfully finding new markets for their educational brands is a matter of survival. For the BRICS group, in contrast, partnership with mature nations and institutions helps to speed up a process of national development which would likely occur without partnerships, if perhaps a little more slowly. What has become essential for some nations is merely convenient for others. Now, I say all of this to indicate that while I could not be more encouraging, supportive, and admiring of your every move to be a force for global change, it is important that you not be so transported by the promise of this moment, by the exhilaration of being strong in love with your global brothers and sisters, that you fail to notice that your own interests may be different from theirs. In the face of so much global suffering, it is tempting to come bearing the gift of answers rather than the more valuable gift of questions. It is tempting to be assured rather than abject in your approach to others. And more problematically even, you can find yourself engaged in remaking the other in your own image, failing to understand unfamiliar cultures, economies, ways of understanding the universe in terms other than a lack of what is valued and celebrated in your own paradigms. To speak only of internationalizing higher education, what progress does it represent if we fail to do anything but strengthen the normalizing claims of Western rationality as a way of interpreting and regulating others? To conclude, some thoughts on the outcome of that trip to Brazil I mentioned. One gratifying outcome is confirmation that 12,000 Brazilian students will come to Canadian universities as part of their own government's Science Without Borders program. Science Without Borders is an international education initiative of quite extraordinary magnitude. It will provide scholarships to 100,000 Brazilian students, largely in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, to pursue their studies at the best universities around the world. And because of its size, the program will have a major impact, not just on Brazil itself and its economic growth, but on all of us, on universities in all those countries fortunate enough to host scholarship students. For us in Canada and here at McMaster, there is the potential for self-renewal and development as our own paradigms, our own scientific understandings and assumptions are challenged by the presence among us of outstanding students from Brazil. That must be the foundation of our engagement with the future and the globalized condition from which that future is inseparable. Traffic across borders must flow in both directions, as must the benefits of engagement. Without that, a new world community, strong in love, as Wordsworth puts it, will be an illusion, and the expectant bliss of your present moment will go unfulfilled. To all of you, our own Scientists Without Borders, my warmest best wishes for the lives and the careers you will make in the strange and unfamiliar territory that begins at the doors of this building. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, President Dean, for those wise, thoughtful, insightful comments, inspirational indeed. Many questions for all of us to think about. Thank you. Let me hasten to add my congratulations to you all the ones that have graduated this morning, and to all of your families and supporters and friends who are here today. This is a celebration. I was delighted to see a small measure of enthusiasm from the kinesiology cohort. I will report that the most enthusiastic convocation we have is the nurses, which is on Friday morning, if any of you would care to see that. I realize that you're about to join with your friends and families to celebrate, and I won't keep you much longer. Just notice that this is the 502nd convocation of the university. I graduated exactly 50 years ago this month, at the 63rd convocation. The 63rd convocation in the first 75 years. Since then, we've had 438 to 9 since in the last 50 years. And that's a measure of the growth and development of this great university, is the numbers that we now have and graduate each and every year. A couple of announcements. Flowers that have been delivered for graduates will be available at the coat check in the main lobby. Please remain standing at your seats until the academic procession and the graduates have left the hall. I'd ask you to rise now and join with me in the singing of our national anthem. After the singing of the anthem, this convocation stands adjourned.
Thank you.